Alrighty, everyone. Well, howdy, and welcome to our workshop today on putting together a quad chart. We wanted to hold this a little bit informal kind of teaching session about quad charts, their usage when it comes to things like doing outreach for program managers for SBIR and STTR agencies, and really wanted to kind of link this to our upcoming event, our Innovation Summit, where you will have the opportunity to talk with agency program managers from multiple agencies. We'll get into that shortly. But just a kind of general flow of how our workshop, webinar, information session, call it what you will happen today. We're going to first make sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to the SBIR and STTR agencies. Then we're going to kind of dive into the quad chart, the purpose of a quad chart, how it's arranged, give you some examples, kind of talk through it, talk about the usage of a quad chart, and not just the usage, how to effectively use one, if that makes sense. And then my co-teacher Melissa and I are going to kind of role play a little bit to show you how do you actually work inside one of these meetings? What are some things to find out? What is important for you to cover in one of these meetings that you set up with an agency program manager so that you get the information you need to kind of move forward? And then we do have two breakout rooms set up that we'll go into after the information portion of here. Melissa will helm one of the breakout rooms, and she will kind of focus on granting agencies. So talk with you about putting together a quad chart, what's important to pull together for a granting agency versus a contracting agency. But let's go ahead and get started here. Let's run through our SBIR, STTR kind of overview first, and then we're going to do some introductions. So again, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the SBIR and STTR programs, quick 3 to 4 minute high-level overview. So SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. STTR stands for Small Business Technology Transfer. These are federal funding opportunities for-profit small businesses, which are less than 500 employees, that are primarily owned and managed by US citizens, and that are developing an innovative idea with commercial potential. These are a way for you to actually offset technical risk with trying to get a commercial product out on the marketplace. When you're developing something that's innovative, that's really actually unique and groundbreaking, you're going to run into a lot of risk. You're going to have a lot of issues to figure out. You're going to kind of rack and stack problems and go, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Well, these programs provide a little bit of that offset. They are non-dilutive, so you don't have to give up any portion of your business. You don't have to give up any portion of your idea. They are not a loan. You don't pay it back. You just make your best effort to actually utilize the funding to continue that product development cycle towards something that is able to be in the marketplace, is needed, and is kind of wanted by the customer segment that you're focusing towards. A couple of other things to kind of real quickly note here about SBIR and STTR is these are a way to work together. Not only is it an excellent opportunity for non-dilutive funding, but it's a great way to build relationships, build networks, build partnerships, build teams for the future. You have to think long-term when it comes to SBIR and STTR. These are not a way to kind of get into the market quickly. They do follow their own pathway. They do follow their own kind of focus, and there are multiple phases that you're going to move through. Because phase one is kind of that putting together a proposal. These are federal opportunities. You're going to have to put together a proposal. Don't care who it's to. Don't care actually what the proposal is, because there are 11 different agencies. Each agency is different. What they want in the proposal, what they focus on, how much their funding is, their periods of performance, all of that has a lot of variation. But no matter what, you got to propose something to them. You got to tell them how much it's going to cost for you to actually define some feasibility, which is your phase one in that concept. Phase one, you are establishing that your idea is feasible. you are not solving the problem. You are saying, you know what? Let me take this chunk. Let me go. I need to do some good hard science here. I need to do some research. I need to do some development to show that I'm pretty sure this will work out. Let me do some testing here. Let me do some refinement. Let me do some concept development. And that's what the phase one is. It is moving towards that concept development that, okay, let's establish this. Now, if you're successful in your phase one, then you move on to a phase two, which is prototyping. It's more money and it's a longer time period because you're physically doing something at that point. Yeah, you may have been physically doing something in phase one, but you're not developing a market-ready prototype, which is what phase two is. They want you to have something that you walk out of that and it's almost ready to be put on store shelves. But that does take a long time. It takes a lot of money. So a lot of the agencies will offer companion programs, phase two extension, phase 2A, phase 2B, phase 2C, phase two, whatever have you. Most of them offer some sort of supplementary that they go, you made really good progress. You just need to get over that hump. Here's another, I don't know, $500,000 to get over that hump. One thing to note is that a lot of the agencies, when it comes to their supplemental funding for phase twos, quite a few of them will require some sort of matching funding, some sort of matching investment. So a lot of times you're going to look at, well, who are these partners that I've developed over time? Who are these potential team members that I've been developing in the background? How can they help me kind of continue forward? And then your phase three is just commercialization. You're out on the market, you're selling, and that is really where the value comes in for the government. That's why this is a seed program, because it is a way for you to take that seed, take that nugget and grow it, water it, nurture it, give it love, make sure that it is, being healthy, make sure that it's continuing forward. You're growing it into a solution. So that's why these are risk-free dollars. Again, not a loan, no equity taken. There is a return from the government because you are growing your business. You're developing a good business, a solid business. You're making more sales. You're getting into the commercial market when you may not have ever you may not have been able to get there without this funding. You're hiring people, you're paying wages. Guess what that does? It increases your tax base. Government gets the money at the end of the day back from you anyways, but they get the money because you're being successful. Why not do a win-win situation? And one other thing that these programs do that is really great, and particularly, for like our upcoming summit that has a lot of like the contracting agencies that'll be there, SBIR and STTR provide a priority position for sole source selling to the government. So what does that mean? If the government provided funding into this idea, they provided funding into the product development, no matter the agency, another contracting agency like Department of Defense that wants to buy it can sole source sell it. They don't have to put it up for open competition. You're not, competing against the Raytheons, the Lockheeds of the world that can make pennies on the product because they're going to be able to manufacture 48 million of them. The government's able to go, you know what, this fits our need. This person can deliver. We have already provided funding into the idea. We're just going to set up a contract vehicle directly with them. And they usually do that through what they call OTAs, other transaction authorities. Gets way too into the weeds for our purposes here, though. Just know that it is a way to provide a foundation that you can directly sell a product to the government without them having to openly compete. Now, before we launch into the quad chart, we actually have a template for a quad chart that we're going to drop into the chat. But real quickly, wanted to do some introductions for the NMFast team that's on the call here, webinar, whatever. For people that don't know me, a lot of y'all probably do know me. I am Del Mackey. I am a program manager here with the NMFast program. I've been working on NMFast for a number of years, 6-ish, 7-ish, something like that. I know quite a bit about SBIR and STTR, but I am by no means an expert, because I always say you can't be an expert on these programs. It's too much variation, too many agencies, too much delineation between them. You can have a lot of foundational knowledge, though, that you use for learning. And that's kind of where I try to focus. Not only have I been a part of the NMFAST program for a while and helping businesses go after these opportunities, I used to be part of a small business going after these opportunities. So I've seen the trials, the tribulations, the wins, the successes, the headaches, the defeats from both sides of the table. So not only am I your cheerleader, I've also been in your shoes. And then also, we are going to now allow Melissa to give her intro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Tennick. I am a program manager for NMFAST as well as other programs within Arrowhead Center. My background is in biogeochemistry, so I was a biogeochemist for about 10 years. But what I really would like to say my skills or the talents that I got from that is to take really high level information, pack it down into really strong proposals to get folks from other areas to care about really complex ideas. So I think that SBIR is a really great avenue for folks to do that. And I really love supporting folks through that process of taking your really high tech, new innovative ideas, condensing them into something that program managers and the different federal agencies would be interested in.
Great, thanks, Melissa. And I believe we also have Dana and Stephanie, who are part of the NMFAST team. If y'all want to introduce yourselves.
Sure, thanks, Del. Hi, everyone. My name's Dana Catron. I am Deputy Director of Arrowhead Center, and I will be helping monitor the chat today. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat and we'll make sure that they get to Del or Melissa.
And hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Garcia. I'm a program specialist with NMFAST.
Great, thanks, Dana and Stephanie. So while they were doing that, I was trying to, in the background, find my template for a quad chart to drop it in the chat, but I'll do that shortly. We get to a point that we're going to talk about the purpose of the quad chart, and we'll be able to dig for that a little bit more. I don't know where it is. But, you know, the big focus on today's webinar is the quad chart. What is a quad chart? Why do you put together a quad chart? What's it useful for? Why is it something that helps you establish some really good, just working conversations with agency program managers? Why is that important for you? You know, those are all the items that we really wanted to dive into today. So we're going to start with the purpose of the quad chart and kind of go into a little bit of an overview first, and then dive into some of the big pieces of it before we do a actual live look at a quad chart. So let's take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Del. All right, so quad charts, they are basically a 4-quadrant handout that speaks towards your innovation, towards your business, and towards kind of the direction that you see your business going in towards. You can think of it as an elevator pitch. So I guess the audience interested in learning more. Think about these program managers. So we have about 20 plus folks in here. I would get confused if I got 20 plus different ideas sent towards me. So these quad charts really make it easier for program managers to be able to look at the hundreds of people that are sending in ideas to them, and kind of get a better idea of what is the small business doing, what does the small business have to offer, and then what directions is the small business going to go into the future. Your quad chart will provide some background information on your idea and the idea of your company. You should also include there the direction that you see your company going towards. This should be a quick overview or glance of everything that's going on, and it should really be a discussion starter. So typically there's going to be different information pieces, but those information pieces should be exciting and should be eye-catching for the program managers. So they can look at that piece of information and say, hey, this leads me to think of another question for you, and you start dialogue that way. Some agencies like DoD, you will need to fill out a quad chart before initiating conversations with the technical points of contact. Having this quad chart there already helps navigate them through your thinking process, through the innovation that you are creating, and then also who you're going to be selling it to within the Department of Defense. Historically, different SBIR agencies have required you to submit a quad chart with your proposal. Things change all the time, so depending on the current solicitation, some agencies might need that now or might not need that now. But quad charts overall are a really good thought practice, as well as a good resource to have for your business moving forward, especially when you're talking about meeting or teaming with other folks. So if we could jump over to the next slide, Del. So aside from just intros with agencies and using that as a conversation starter for agencies, quad charts can also be useful for partnership meetings. They can serve as a one-pager that briefly states what your project is about, at which stage the project is, and why stakeholders should be interested. Also, when you are talking to federal agencies, you should think about them as stakeholders as well. How does your innovation fit into their needs? They have very, very specific needs. So as you're filling out your quad chart, make sure to use their verbiage, use the words that they are actually putting on their pages and show, hey, my idea fits your need, and this is how I'm going to solve your problem. Quad charts also allow you to highlight where you need assistance. So there's portions in there where you can talk about, hi, I have all of this. This is all that's set in place. But for example, if we're looking for a manufacturing partner, you can include in a quad chart, hey, this is a piece that we're missing. We need a little bit of assistance there. This is everything we have set up already. Would you be interested in being a partner there? Collaboration opportunities can also boost reasonableness of your proposal and proposed activities. So a lot of times, federal agencies, they'll want to see who your team is, what team is going to be supporting that SBIR project. Using a quad chart to list everybody who's part of that team, or using a quad chart to gather that team together, those will all be things that'll help make your proposal stronger. Next slide.
And one quick thing before we go into the next slide and I pick up some information here. You may see that we have reasonableness in quotes here, and that's because reasonableness is let's call it a large guiding barometer when it comes to people that review proposals, people that review innovations, people that are taking a look. It needs to be reasonable to them. It needs to kind of flow. The idea needs to be, okay, I can see how they got from here. I can see why they're saying this. I can see why this happens. You want to make sure that everything you put together just is reasonable and explained. Do you need to dive deeply into that in the quad chart? Not really, but that's not really what the quad chart is about. The quad chart is really about getting some information into their hands so that they want to find out more. It's a great exercise in two things that are going to be super critical when you're putting together your proposal package. One is brevity. A quad chart is just that, 4 quadrants, one chart, one PowerPoint slide broken up into 4, and then with a header. Think about that. You're probably not going to have a lot of space there. You're not going to have a lot of real estate on the screen. And, if they print it out, it's going to be even less real estate. Do you want them to have to pull out a magnifying glass to read because you tried to put 500 words into one quadrant of a PowerPoint slide? No, you don't, because they're not going to read it. Pro tip, they're just going to delete that and go, no. So you have to be brief. You have to be able to get right to the information they need, what they care about, and then be able to explain it. That is a really excellent opportunity that the quad chart provides you. You need to be brief. You need to be to the point. You need to be to the information that is going to help them guide you. That's the purpose, or one of the hidden benefits of a quad chart. Also, a really great way is to kind of get some graphic alignment. Graphics, the use of imagery, the use of graphics, the use of tables, the use of charts, the use of figures, also super critical in your proposal package. We are visual creatures. They always say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a picture can be worth 1,000 words. Think about it. You can take 2 pages in a proposal, which 500 words to a page, 1,000 words. You can take 2 pages of your proposal and try to explain how this links together. This would be displayed to people. This, process feeds into this. Or you can have one graphic and they actually see it. They understand it. Because as they read those 2 pages, they're going to get an idea in their head. They're going to get a picture that comes up. Don't you want the picture in their head to line up with the picture you want them to see? How do you do that? Give them the picture. Don't just describe something and hope that they actually get the right picture out of it. So seeing if people can understand it, seeing if people actually get it as just an introductory method with these agency program managers, that'll allow you to go, okay, do I need to tighten this up? Do I need to make any, changes to this? Is it something that people will actually natively understand when I have this graphic? Because when you send this off for review, you don't get to have that conversation. You don't get to go, well, do you understand the graphic? Let me explain this. It's in a vacuum. You send it off and you hope that they got it. Validate that. Have a conversation with somebody, say, well, I put this graphic in there. Did you get it? And they go, yeah, I understood it, or I had no idea what you were trying to say. Need to do some work on that graphic then. So really great kind of just effective use of quad charts. A couple of best practices here. A quad chart is not you selling your idea. Let's get that right out of the front, gate. Just like an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is not you selling something. It's not the purpose of an elevator pitch. It's not the purpose of a quad chart. Those purposes, or the purpose of those types of things, is to get interest, to make somebody go, you know what, I got to find out more. If you think that you're going to be in, I was about to say Elon Musk, that's not good at the moment, but if you were in an elevator with Bill Gates, and you had 30 seconds to make him, want to find out more, to make him possibly invest in your idea, do you think in 30 seconds he's going to go, you know what, by God, this is amazing, here's your check? No, but in 30 seconds, he might go, that sounds really interesting. That sounds like something I'd want to find out more. Let's walk and talk. That's what these quad charts are. They're a way to get an agency rep to go, yeah, you know what? I get this, I see. So when you set up a meeting, make sure to send a quad chart over to them. Try to do it about 3 days ahead of time. You don't want to get it to them right as the meeting starts. You don't want to get it to them, an hour before the meeting starts. You want them to actually take a look because you want them to potentially have questions for you. You want to kind of use that as a way to engage, a way to, get that two-way street of information flow going. And the way you do that is you allow them to read it. You allow them to actually consume it. You allow them to think on it. So send it to them a couple of days ahead of time. And in that quad chart, particularly if it's a contracting agency, have some idea about the topic, you're responding to, or the topic area you want to discuss. Again, you're just opening the door for the conversation, but you want this to be a good conversation. You want it to be focused. You want them to already know what you want to discuss. So be in that quad chart, you want to have something that they go, okay, I can see what they want to talk about. I can see how this aligns with maybe the topics we're released, maybe what we have, maybe what we're looking at, whatever that is. The last thing, best practices. And by God, I hope you don't do this, be it a quad chart meeting, be it an agency meeting, even being information in general. Don't read your quad chart. They have your quad chart in front of them. Don't read it word for word. It's boring. It's unengaging. And in that call, you shouldn't be reading anything anyways. Those are information sessions for you. You want to treat it like a customer discovery process. You want to actually be listening more than you talk. You want to get information from that agency program manager. Why? They're the ones that make the ultimate decisions. You want to make sure that your vision lines up with what they want to fund. You want to make sure that there's no unintended consequences of things that maybe they overlooked when they put together the topic area. You want to make sure that if you have something that is truly revolutionary, truly groundbreaking, they don't know about it, you want to make sure that they go, that's an entirely different way to focus and, this idea. That's something we'd really be interested in. You just want to resonate in their mind. And the way you do that is you have a really great conversation. You don't bore them to tears. So don't read your quad chart. Also, if you're giving a presentation, don't read, slides. People see the information, people have it. You want to give that nuance, because anybody that knows me, I got a lot of, old weird colloquialisms that I break out when it comes to SBIR and STTR. And one of them is the nuance is what kills, because that is where you're not finding out the things that are really important that aren't on the paper. And that's actually how you get funded. You want to make it resonate with that program manager. You want to make it resonate with that reviewer. So that's enough about just kind of quad charts in general. Let's actually do some breakdown of a quad chart here. Now, this is what the quad chart looks like. As you can see, again, 4 quadrants. It's a chart, quad chart. And this is the SBA kind of template. It is actually a really good template. If you ever go to like, well, Tech Connect's not doing it anymore, or hasn't done it the past couple of years, but they do it again, where you have agency meetings and are able to do one-on-ones with agency program managers. You're going to want to fill out a quad chart. They're going to tell you fill one out. They're going to give you this template, fill it out, print it, have it to hand to the person, and also to submit beforehand. But this is what people usually go with as, okay, this format works. You see a couple of different areas here. The first thing, we're going to go through each of these quadrants kind of one by one and, break them down. And the first thing you see is really just a brief introduction. They want to know company, where you are. State is your actual state, as in, geographically, not like state of business, like, oh, startup. That doesn't matter to them. They want to know your actual state. And a contact person. Who's going to be the contact person for really the business itself? Because this is your way to say, we are a business. We are doing something. Because again, SBIR and STTR is about funding innovative ideas with commercial potential. If you're not an actual business, if you're not set up as a business, if you're not making some sort of, business progress, if you're not moving towards some sort of business goal, how do they think you're going to actually get into the commercial market? You're not even taking the initial steps. So they want to make sure that we are an actual business. So always actually have your header there. If you can, and you have a logo, drop it in there. And also, email, if you have a website and you actually have a URL, make sure the email you put on here is tied to the URL. Makes you, provides more of that reasonableness and that grounding that you're an actual business rather than whoever@gmail.com. But, quad chart. So first quad in the quad chart is the technology development. This is where you kind of highlight not only what is innovative about the idea, but what have you kind of done? What have you already, founded? Where are you at in that kind of developmental stage? You want to cover why this is different, why it's unique, why this is, at the end of the day, innovative. Innovation does not necessarily mean high tech. Innovation means innovation. Innovation just means it's different for better results, increased, exponentially increased, whatever. You're doing something that is different, that is unique for a better purpose and a better result. That's what you want to highlight here. So what is different about what you're doing and why does that difference actually matter? And you want to show that this isn't just some scrawl in the back of a bar napkin. You want to show that this has actually moved some fashion. How have you, at least scientifically defined some things? How have you said this is something that can actually happen in the future? This is, potentially feasible. I've developed a theorem that says this, or, by Einstein's theory of whatever, this could potentially work. You want to show that this isn't just a weird thought exercise. At the end of the day, this isn't just vaporware. Now, do you have to have, critical data? No. Do you have to have experimental results? No. It's what you're doing during phase 1, right? Feasibility. But you want to actually show that this is semi-feasible, that you're just not, blowing smoke. And you also want to cover, does this have protections? Have you done anything already to take your intellectual property forward? Do you have to have, any sort of IP rights, any sort of patents? No. Do you have to have a provisional patent to actually put together a proposal? No. Probably recommend that you don't either. We can have an entire different conversation about that. But they just want to know, has this been protected? Are if you're aware of any potential issues, because maybe you're licensing this from somebody. Have you already had that negotiation? Have you already started that conversation? If so, briefly talk about it here. You don't have to give a blow by blow for a paragraph, but at least give a highlight of, yeah, you know, this came from New Mexico State University. We already have a, you know, option to license in the future. Great. They know that you're not going to have a fight for intellectual property. They just want to make sure that nothing's going to get like bogged down in a quagmire if they provide you funding. Research need. You've established that this is semi-feasible. You talked about it in that first quadrant when you talked about the, you know, stage of development. But where do you go next? What else do you need to do? That's your research need. What research needs to be done? Because these are research and development. At the end of the day, you have to be doing something. You have to be doing some sort of research, not market research, not business research, actual research, scientific research. Again, does that mean that it has to be high tech? No, you know, but technical problems are getting out there and doing, you know, surveying of people, you know, gathering information about how they accept, you know, data or how they use user design, user interface. That's really not technology based, but it is very technical based. That sort of stuff is even research. So you need to show that there's some research activity that is going to go on. But by all means, this is not a work plan. You're not going to go, you know, blow by blow of what you would do during a phase one. You just want to show an overall idea. This is critical because this is where you describe the critical problem that's keeping you from doing this yourself. Very high level about the problem though, just a very brief overview about this is the problem that is keeping this from being feasible. This is the problem that I go, man, if I could only figure this out. Really, when you're talking about, you know, that kind of research need, you're focusing on the thing that you go, everything else is secondary. This is the primary thing that if I do not figure this out, I might as well shutter my business right now and go be a greeter at Walmart because it's a steady paycheck. This is where you go, okay, I'm going to be able to move forward by taking this, looking at this, diving into this a little bit more. And here's what I think needs to happen. Because again, big thing with COD charts is reasonableness. This is a huge barometer for, are you being reasonable? If you're saying that a problem that doesn't exist within the space for your innovation is your research need, anybody looking at this is going to go, yeah, this person's out to lunch. So you need to make sure that where your stage of development is matches your research need and what you think is going to be the next step in the next stage of evolution. Then you also want to kind of just give a brief overview about the organization itself. Again, these are business opportunities. These are for-profit funding. Are you actually a for-profit business? What have you done for your business? How big is your business? You know, these are for the SBIR and STTR are for for-profits that are under 500 employees. Do you have 499 employees? Why do you need this money if that's the case? Are you a small scale startup? Have you been established, but this is a new area for you? These are all things that, you know, a lot of different agencies are going to want to kind of get at a glance, because some agencies are not really a one and done, but it's hard to get multiple awards from some agencies. Some agencies put a focus on small scale startups. Some agencies allow further developed ideas. This is that they can glance at this and go, okay, you know, DeLorean Incorporated, they have 3 employees. They've been in business for less than a year. They seem like they have a really great idea. They really need funding. Or, oh no, this is an offshoot of Hewlett Packard. They already have funding. It doesn't really sound like it's that innovative either. So not sure that they are going to be a fit for SBIR and STTR. Remember, these are about seeding those ideas that are going to help businesses flourish and grow. So you want to show that you are actually a business, you have taken those steps, and that if they do provide the funding, you're going to do everything you can to get to the commercial market, because that is your focus. This is not just a, oh, I'm doing it, you know, part-time, you know, as I can. It's not really that I care about the business. Don't do that. In your last quadrant on your quad chart is really kind of the opportunity. So the opportunity is, I don't know if I would really call it a misnomer here, but it's something that a lot of people don't really get when they're thinking opportunity, because the opportunity here is, why is this an opportunity for the market? Who cares about this? Why do they care about this? Why are people going to be beating your door down to buy one as soon as you start producing these? That's the opportunity. There has to be a problem you're solving. There has to be a pain point that you're recognizing and you're saying, I have a solution for that. People need this. Not that people want it. People need this. People need this because of this reason. This is where you talk about, that kind of profile of that customer. Who is the customer? You want to be detailed too. It's not, well, my customer is the United States. Who's the United States? How much is the United States budget? Why do they buy things like this? That's not your customer. That's not your market. It's very segmented down. You want to provide a glimpse, because that's what you're doing here. You're providing a glimpse because, again, you're establishing that it's reasonable. If you say that your market is a $48 billion market and you're just starting out and you say, yeah, I'm going to capture 10% of that market within the next 2 years. I got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. And that's what agency reps are going to think too. You're not being reasonable. So you want to be segmented. You want to actually know your ability. You want to know your ability to move forward. Because if you follow the pathway for SBIR and STTR, it'll probably take you about 2 to 3 years before you have a product in the market. That's if everything goes swimmingly. But it's just your best guess. But it's showing that you have a good idea. You have something that can be further refined and further developed and further focused. Now, here are a couple of examples of, quad charts. This is one that, we put together for the SBA template's fine. There's some nuanced stuff that you want to find out. So let's actually just run through this. As a fake quad chart, I am not Emmett Brown. I do not, run a business called Fusion Industries. I'm not trying to develop a flying DeLorean. But if I was, here's the quad chart that I would actually hand over. Because this kind of gives you, okay, well, where am I at with my technology? What have I done so far? Why is this innovative? So I cover, it's a lightweight power distribution system. It takes multiple fuel sources for sustained and continuous energy on the go. Does that, dive into exactly what I'm doing? Does that give away any proprietary information? Does that give away the secret sauce? No, it doesn't. But people actually can go, okay, well, that's something that we're interested in. For a lightweight power distribution system with multiple fuel sources, if I wanted to give this to, say, someone like NIST, they could look at this and go, yeah, that's not really our focus. Don't talk to us, but, DOT, maybe, DOE, probably, maybe NOAA, because they do a lot of funding like that. That's going to give you an idea about who should you approach. And I'm giving, the state of the intellectual property, not, giving them patent numbers. I'm just telling them what has happened so far. And, the stage of development is just, okay, here's where I'm at. If I say something like computational models, people understand, okay, well, it's just a computational model. They haven't, done the feasibility stage. They haven't actually validated this, but they've shown that, theoretically, this could work. And the value proposition, just the, hey, this is what matters about what I'm creating. This is actually really why it's innovative, because that is that kind of missing piece. That is the uniqueness, is what that value proposition is. Because remember, innovation is unique because it's different. Different is always unique. Different's not bad. Different's not good. Different is different. But different is what you need to be. Different is innovation. Then we have here kind of that research need. So I've already established where I'm at. Now I'm telling them, in a phase 1, this is really what I need to do. This is what I'm saying is the critical issue. This is how I'm going to get past. You see here that I say, the empirical research, says that this is, possible. What I really need to do to validate that this is feasible is take a look at this, maybe look at this, maybe do some of these elements, maybe do some of these actions. Your research need here should be verb intensive. What I mean by that is it should be action oriented. Somebody should be able to look at this and go, okay, this is something somebody's going to physically do. this is something somebody needs to actually happen. This is, you know, I can see the work that is going to take place from here. Now, that, you know, helps establish, okay, where are we going to go from here? Why? What is that thing that people say, that's the focus, that is the problem? Now, and then again, company introduction, not super in depth here, just kind of goes, okay, well, this is our mission, because they want to see, well, what are you going to use this as a backbone for? Is this something your company values? Is this something you believe in? And then where's the work going to be performed? What kind of, you know, facility do you have? Just to show that you're not a fly by night, that you are an actual company, you have established something. And again, the opportunity. This is one of those, when you get down to it, probably the research need and the opportunity are two of the most important quadrants in a quad chart, I would say. That's me personally. Don't say, you know, oh, the SBIR programs think this. This is just Dell. This is just a dude. But when it comes to the, you know, two of the quadrants on here, research need, because it shows what has to happen for this to actually be feasible, but the opportunity, because this does show that there is commercial potential. It does show that I have an idea that there's a customer, I have an idea of a market, and I can actually point towards some data here. I have an opportunity that the Army spends this much on batteries across service regions, that, you know, this would reduce the need, you know, I can have this kind of cost savings. Now, does that mean that the Army is going to come buy everything from me? No, but I can actually demonstrate a value to a specific customer, because that's what you want in that opportunity. You want that value to be defined by a specific customer, because again, you want a specific customer, but if you say that it's going to be, you know, program managers that are project managers that handle, you know, 18 projects a year with a combined value of $40 million. And then you talk about, you have a new broom that's going to help sweep up. Where's the value to that project manager? You want to make sure that those two mesh, and that those two are actually kind of, again, reasonable from each other. That idea flows down. Now, here's a bit of a different take on a quad chart that Melissa is going to walk you through. This was another quad chart that we've actually used in the past, but you can see how you can take different approaches. You can kind of take different, you know, segmentations for your quad chart, but use what makes sense to you and use what makes sense to your business.
Awesome. Thank you, Del. So you can see that this one still a quad chart, still 4 quadrants, but the titles are a little bit different. And overall, when you are thinking of submitting proposals or innovations to SBIR, innovations don't always have to be tech. Innovations could be many different things. For example, if you're interested in the USDA, they have more social focused topics. Those topics you might not need to come up with a new technical product, but could focus more on kind of like program development in different communities. So here, the company name is going to be Arrowhead Center at NMSU, and then also some of Dell's information up there. Instead of doing technology development right here, we're going to do program development. So this quad chart is for our ACSA program, or the Arrowhead SBIR STTR Accelerator Program. And so that isn't a technology, but it is a service that we needed support for. And then also we have customers or a market that is going to be interested in this. So similar to the one that previously that Del talked about, we have our program overview, or the overview of our technology or whatever we're going to bring to the marketplace. Our product here is going to be the ACSA. One thing to remember when you are sending anything out, so outside of your immediate organization, is to remember that y'all are the only experts on this. So for example, within Arrowhead, we always use acronyms. So we're like, oh, ACSA this, ACSA that. Remember that when you are producing materials for folks outside of your organization, for folks outside of your business, you're going to be using acronyms or something that isn't just general knowledge, to define it and to really make it easy for the program manager to follow your train of thought. Up next in the program development portion, we have a stage of development. So here, what have you already done? What else needs to be done? The stage of development could be really useful if you're interested in a direct phase 2 or a fast track opportunity. So explaining to them, why do we not need this feasibility testing, or what has already been done where the feasibility testing has already been concluded. Always make sure to include your value proposition, as Dell was saying. So what is the gain that the customers are going to get from your work? Here, we didn't include anything on intellectual property. We didn't patent this course. It is just something that we're going to be works within Arrowhead. Up next, we have growth need instead of research need. So here we list out what needs to happen in order for us to be able to grow the ACSA. And then something that could be helpful here is to include images or include figures, include a chart. So for example, if we get funding, this is what we need in order to grow. But with this growth, this is the projections that we're going to see. So for example, if we get funding for, let's say, 3 more ACSAs, we project another 30 folks, 30 small businesses are going to be submitting complete and strong proposals, versus without the ACSA, let's say the number would be like 2. So giving numbers there as well, images and figures, that makes things a lot easier. Nobody wants to look at just pages and pages of text. Up next, we have the organization introduction. So yours would most likely be company introduction. We are here, we post our mission. It's also a really good idea and a good thought process to come up with a mission. What is the mission for your organization? What is the mission for your company? Where do y'all see yourself in the next 5, 10, 15 years? That can be incorporated into your mission there. And typically here, where it says programs under the organization introduction, they would talk about different things that they have brought to the marketplace. But since Arrowhead, we don't sell our products, we have programs that are free of charge for folks to use. We listed all the different programs that Arrowhead has already initiated, has completed, or currently active. And then finally, the opportunity section. There, talk about why is this needed? Who is your target? Who are you going to be selling to? Even though we are not selling something, we still have a target customer. Our target customer is going to be small businesses across state of New Mexico that haven't gotten an SBIR or an STTR award. They don't have to pay for our services, but still, these are services that are going to be wanted by this group of people.
Great, thanks, Melissa. One thing also, and this isn't something that we did on this quad chart, but we should think about in the future is, and for the quad chart you're developing, be aware that sometimes your customer is not the beneficiary. And what I mean by that is sometimes you're going to have a difference between your customer and an end user. The quad chart we did here, which full disclosure was a quad chart I did, so it's my failing. I'll throw myself under the bus. I don't have the right customer here. That's an end user, because as Melissa said, people don't pay for our services. They're not the payer. The people, the small business that we help, we're saying that that's a customer. We're saying that that's the opportunity. We're saying that's the value, but the customer for us actually should be the agencies, because the customer is the one that's going to pay for it. The end user is going to benefit because that's the end user. The small businesses are the end users, but the customer is the agency. So why does the agency need this? What value does this give for the agency? What is that opportunity for that agency? So that's why make sure that, like in your quad charts here, you're focusing on the customer as the payer. If you actually want to focus on the end user, I would recommend change target customer to target end user and talk about that value, because anybody that sees, great example, you're coming up with the next, great healthcare thing, and it's going to be a drug. And you say, people with diabetes are my customers. No, they're not. They're not going to be the ones buying the, drug from you. Insurance companies are. providers are, hospitals are. They're your customer. So make sure that all of that information kind of fits together. Because anybody that has any clue about, markets and customers and things like that, if they see something that's a huge disconnect, that stands out to them. And then you lose one of those, remember, reasonableness. You lose one of those hallmarks for reasonableness. Get off my weird tangential soapbox there. So, a couple of things for effective usage of meetings, because the big thing with a quad chart is you are trying to use that as a driver to get a meeting going. So how do you actually get a meeting going? Well, a couple of things that you want to do. Connecting with a program manager. So there's two different ways that you typically connect with on through an event like, Tech Connect or like our upcoming Innovation Summit. You'll actually be able to find the person, you'll be able to set something up. Sometimes you'll be able to give them a quad chart ahead of time, maybe not, but you want to modify kind of the information that you give. You want to modify how you give that introduction. For events where you don't have like a specific topic that you're answering towards, it's maybe just a program manager, do some homework, find that person, look up their name. Are they under a specialization with, like, for instance, Department of Homeland Security? Do they actually focus on port borders? If they do, why are you going to talk to them about something for airplanes? That's not their focus. That's not their specialization. Match the information, match that introduction to what they care about, what they actually, focus towards, and where their specialization area is. For specific like topics, like, particularly like Department of Energy, their FY23 release 2 topics are out, and they have a point of contact. So whenever you're introducing yourself, whenever you're requesting the meeting, before you don't just send somebody a quad chart out of the blue, actually send them an intro and request a meeting, pull some language, pull some verbiage. Again, as Melissa was saying earlier, parrot back their words, use their language, use what they say. So talk about what you're doing, talk about why you think it matches their vision, their goals for that topic. Cover something that you would specifically like to get information towards, and then request that meeting. Know that it's going to be probably a 15-minute meeting, so you need to come in prepared. So how do you come in prepared? Well, again, send them the quad chart ahead of time, but do additional homework. Figure out what you want to find out from them. Come up with a list of bullet points or some questions that you want to cover. What is something that would be critical for you to find out about that specific topic area, about that specific focus? Maybe for someone like Department of Defense, they have some very key metrics or measures they're looking at, and you go, I can hit 3 of these, I can't hit the 4th. Do I have to hit all 4? Perfect question for, agency program manager, but discuss it with them, talk with them about it. Maybe that one that you can't hit, maybe that is actually 75% of the work. Is it in the topic document? No. Are you going to find it out from reading about it online? No. Are you going to find it out from, having that conversation with them? Yes. So come up with your homework. A lot of SBIR and STTR success is about doing your homework. It may sound punitive, but you're putting effort in towards getting, usually roughly $250,000 that you don't have to pay back. You want to be able to provide your best effort towards that, don't you? Another kind of key point, those questions that you come up with or the bullet points, please don't treat that as a script. You want it to actually be a natural flow for a conversation. You don't just want to rapid fire questions at them and then have them give 1 or 2 word answers and then be like, I'm good. Actually use those as a kind of defining or a guidepost, because you're trying to figure out what is important to them that may not be in that document, that may not actually be outlined, that may not be specifically stated. Don't squander this opportunity. Again, you're probably going to get 15 minutes with them. Make the most use of that 15 minutes. Be prepared. So kind of towards that being prepared, let's talk real quickly about our upcoming Innovation Summit, and then Melissa and I are going to do a really quick little bit of a role play before we, get people into open up our breakout rooms for people to, talk with one of us specifically. So we've done this entire workshop, information session, webinar, whatever, towards our upcoming Innovation Summit. We have a virtual event, again, virtual, also free, doesn't cost you anything. You can sign up and attend next Wednesday. That will be from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And it will be all about SBIR and STTR. So the sixth time we're doing this. We do this as an annual event. And it's going to be broken up into kind of panels. There's going to be an expo hall with booths. We're going to have agency representatives and program managers from multiple agencies, NSF, NIH, DOE, NOAA, Navy. Sorry, I had a couple that pulled out that just ran through my head. DHS. We're going to have multiple people there that will be able to talk with you, that will be able to, kind of discuss your innovation, your idea, if it fits within the goals of that agency. So let's actually just kind of go through a quick thing with what is a couple of key things that if I was developing an innovation and Melissa was a program manager, what would I want to find out with Melissa? So our first one is focusing towards, a granting opportunity. And I have something for USDA that is towards the conservation of natural resources. I'm coming up with a new type of fertilizer. And it's really going to be about loss reduction. So being able to make sure that the percentage of nutrients that are escaping via, air, via, runoff, via erosion, whatever, are not really escaping as much as what, is able to be developed in the plant. So typically I would give an introduction. So me and Melissa set up a call. Melissa is a USDA person in this fantasy of ours. So we set up a call and I give her a quick introduction, say, this is what I'm working on. I see from your topic area and the topic area that you manage that when it comes to conservation of natural resources, you're pointing out that, phosphorus and nitrogen are really important when it comes into soil runoff. Are those the only two compounds that you're, interested in? Or are there other compounds that are also critical?
Great question. So we are really interested in compounds that are water soluble. So ones that are moving within the soil. So they're not the ones that are not actually bound within the soil for the crops to take up.
Okay, so you said that you're really interested in the ones that are water soluble and that are moving within the soil. Are you also looking at the leaching of those into ground supplies? Is that something that's critical under this topic area, or is that something that is not super important to cover?
So one of our really big directives within the USDA is to prevent nutrients from agricultural fields escaping into natural systems. So for example, we really want to reduce any sort of leaching into waterways, any sort of leaching into groundwater, or any sort of escape into the atmosphere. So anything that is water soluble has the opportunity to escape that way, and we want to prevent that.
Okay, and you just mentioned the ones that are escaping into the atmosphere. Are y'all also focusing on things like greenhouse gas emissions there that are actually causing increased carbon loads? Or is it something that is more secondarily applicable for this topic area?
Yes, so with nitrogen, active forms of nitrogen within the soil, they have the ability to transform into a greenhouse gas. And the biggest emitter of that greenhouse gas is actually agricultural fields, which is why the USDA really wants to make sure that we are curbing all of these negative emissions of reactive nitrogen species into different natural systems.
Okay, great. That actually provided me with some really good information. I thank you for your time. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with me, and that gave me a lot of really great direction. So I'm excited to be able to submit a proposal to you.
I look forward to it. And remember, we are here. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out and we're more than happy to chat.
So in that little play there, I asked a couple of questions that helped me define how I'm going to write my proposal, that helped me define, is this kind of critical? I know that water solubility of the nutrients and, the, molecules, compounds. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a business dude. So I'm going to say some technical crap that you go, oh, it doesn't sound right. That's how I am. But, that whatever, it needs to be water soluble. So if I am targeting, nutrients that are not water soluble, that's going to not be as critical to someone like Melissa at USDA. That's this program manager. So even if it is only something that I partly do, I really need to highlight that in my proposal package. I need to have that as a driver because for them, it's a driver. Also, that it's not just the kind of being able to, recapture them into the soil. I have to make sure that it doesn't run off into the waterways because that's critical to them. But the collection into the atmosphere definitely sounded like it was very important. So now I know when I'm putting together my information, when I'm saying I'm going to target these nutrients, I'm going to target, these, leaching compounds, if I, kind of focus my information towards my impacts into nitrogen, that is a key driver for them. I know that with what I'm putting together, with my work plan, with my background rationale, with my data, focus on what I do with nitrogen. Doesn't mean that that's all I do. But if I'm going to put in some facts, if I'm going to put in some figures, if I'm going to put in some numbers that are going to make them stand up and pay attention, that's my leading story. Think of this like, the evening news. The leading story is always the one that makes you go, holy crap, I got to watch the rest of this. It's not just okay, yeah, I might care about this. I'll stick around for the next 30 minutes. So that nitrogen is my leading story because that is super critical to them. Is that the only thing I do with my innovation? No. Is that even the main thing that I'm focusing on? Maybe not, but match their words, match their keys, match what's important to them. We were going to also do a contracting agency here. We're a little bit over time. Let's just do a couple of quick questions. So for like a contracting agency, the contracting agencies are going to be a bit different because they are very focused typically with their topics. So for this one, we're thinking that I'm developing something for, Department of Defense. Melissa's with Department of Defense. Doesn't matter the service component, let's just say Air Force. And they are looking for an AI model for energy expenditures. And they want, because they spend too much on fuel costs for getting it over to, forward-facing bases. So I have something that will be able to give them an offset and let them know what their energy expenditures are versus their cost savings, because for them, cost savings is going to be a big thing. So ring, call up Melissa, have that conversation, give her that, brief overview about what I'm developing. Now I want to drive towards some questions. Now I want to pull out some specific information. And I say, Melissa, first of all, thank you again for, taking time to meet with me. I read through your topic area. I looked at your references. By the way, big thing, if they put references in there, read the references. Let them know that you read the references. They put them in there for a reason. Make them feel good about putting them in there. I don't know. But kind of talk about, I read through the references. I saw that with your solution you're looking for, with the problem you're stating, you're really focused towards kind of what your logistics challenges and your distribution channel challenges are with diesel generators. How important are diesel generators to your forward bases? And are you potentially looking at integration of other types of energy generators?
Yes, so right now we are relying heavily on the diesel. We are hoping to transition away from that moving forward. So we are hoping to incorporate other energy solutions that similar price level or cheaper than what we are working with right now.
Okay, and with the problem you're highlighting towards, fuel cost and distribution cost, do you have, surface leveling of the expenditures for getting the fuel to, the place, let's say Bahrain, versus once it's there, actually getting it to the generators themselves? Is it more expensive or more cost efficient for one versus the other?
Right now, we just have general ideas. What we would like is for that AI to be able to generate those numbers for us to be able to eventually see what it will look like at different bases in the different geographical regions.
Okay. And if I had something that could theoretically also model potential, cost savings and return on investment for integrating, let's say, clean energy rather than diesel, would that be something that y'all would like highlighted, or is it not very important for this topic and this release?
That would actually be a really great thing to highlight. We're hoping to deploy a roadmap for integrating clean energy onto our bases. So that is part of our mission directive.
Okay, great. I thank you for your time. You gave me some really valuable feedback, and looking forward to being able to submit a proposal to you.
Look forward to seeing it.
So again, I gathered some information. I figured out, okay, I need to highlight this. This is really what their driver is. I need to show this. I need to show this cost savings. But I also know that what their roadmap for the future is. Because remember, when you're doing your development, when you're thinking about SBIR, you're thinking about it as a long-term process. You're not thinking about, this is the problem today. This is what I can solve today. You don't have a product to solve it today. You'll have a product 2 or 3 years from now to solve it, because that's how development goes. So you need to be looking at that roadmap for the future. From my conversation with Melissa, I found out this is their immediate need. I can work towards that. But now I also have something that 3 to 5 years from now, they're going to go, oh, someone's already solved this problem. Let's sole source with them. That's what I'm trying to work towards, particularly with a contracting agency. I'm trying to know how their need is going to evolve over time, because I want to be the continuous provider to them. Because maybe you're solving their issue today, but then environment changes, things happen. Increased carbon levels in the atmosphere cause, new turbulence. So I have to actually be wary of that. Just something I didn't know. Melissa gave me the information for. Again, why I'm the business dude. I'm not the tech person. But you need to be able to kind of future forecast what their evolving needs are, because that is how you're successful with having a customer and having a business. You're thinking about your customer's needs 3 years from now, 5 years from now. You're moving towards that. You're figuring out how you can subdivide out your product line. You're figuring out the integrations that you can do in the future, the upgrades, the version 2s, okay, well, you have the base model. Here's our platinum model. Our platinum model does this, which is now your problem. You can address this right now, but you're going to be really interested in this in the future. Always try to expand your product breadth and depth. Have as big a product line as you can that makes sense towards different customers. Because it may be that I have multiple customers within DoD. Maybe what Melissa is talking about is the problem right now, but she talked about that roadmap. Is she going to be the customer for that roadmap for that future? Probably not, because particularly in contracting agencies, different areas, different departments within a contracting agency will focus in different ways. But now I know that there's a hint there. There's something I need to find. So that's really what you're trying to do with kind of these conversations and getting the most out of this. Everything you're doing, whether it is the quad chart, whether it's the introductory email, whether it's the conversation with the program manager, whether it's the follow-up, also a good thing. We didn't have it on the slide here. I just thought of it, but have a follow-up email with them. You had the conversation, you got some really great information. Again, thank them for their time and say, this is what I took away from our conversation. Is this valid? Make sure that you understood where they were coming from. Make sure that you actually understand what they highlighted. Make sure you understand why they highlighted it. Always make sure you're on the same page. So that is going to be our information session for today. Reach out to the NMFAST program. Let us know how we can help you. Let us know what else we can provide to you. Today was recorded. We're going to send out the slides and the recording to everybody that signed up and that is participating.